Hi, folks. With Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the way the Australian media covers the New York Trump trial. This is to do with the alleged hush money paid to Stormy Daniels, who I recently discovered has a name. I mean, I think it's like Stephanie Clifford or something like that. But anyway, we'll stay with Stormy Daniels for the moment. Now, the media outlet is very left leaning, so we need to appreciate that. And they've also got a long history of very anti-Trump, and they'll do everything, and I mean everything they can, to insert Hitler, Nazi, and fascist into any article they do on Trump, and they fall over themselves to do it. So there's one photograph recently of Trump was waving to some of his supporters or something, but because of the angle of his hand and the way they stilled the photograph, they could make out it was a Nazi salute. And they're always doing this. They can't not do it, and they employ these very leftist gender studies, lesbian, usually white middle class girls, interestingly, journalists to cover this, and they're ideological fanatics, and the evidence that any politician is a Nazi is if they want to put some sort of restrictions on mass migration. That's it, Hitler, and that's how they sort of cover things. But sort of covering the Trump trial. Now, you'd think with a trial, it's meant to be a legal reporter that's covering it, for goodness sakes. You'd think she would attempt to stay with the facts and report them as is and so on. But the most recent one, which I saw, it was so bad that I cringed before I laughed, and it was a sardonic laugh rather than one of pure mirth. But so the article says that Trump begins with, and it goes to sensational, the crime. They're presenting it as if the crime did occur, and it's like he's either going to be convicted or he's going to get away with it. And there's nothing to support that other than the assertion. And if Alvin Bragg, the very political district attorney in New York, brought the charges, they must be true. There must be evidence of Hitler. So the opening thing is, well, he did it. Everyone knows he did it. Guilty, because, well, just because. And is there any evidence? Well, who needs fucking evidence? It's ideology, idiot. So they start off by sneering at, they set it up that, he must have done it. And then it sneers at Trump that he doesn't want to be at the court. He doesn't have to be there. He doesn't need to be there. There is no purpose served by Trump being there other than to engage in political humiliation, blatant and brazen political humiliation of the Republican candidate for the office of president. Now, the article doesn't mention that. It doesn't that here's the primary candidate for president, or the Republican candidate for president, who's being demanded by a political judge, very Democrat sympathetic judge, to come into court, even though there's no reason, purpose, or benefit of him being there, when he should be out on the campaign trail, campaigning for political office. I mean, he's the candidate, for goodness sakes. That's not mentioned. The reason that Trump doesn't want to be there is his contempt for justice. And the issue here isn't political trials, it's justice. Trump is being pursued by pure as a driven snow justice, and that's what he doesn't like. He's trying to escape justice because he's fucking damn guilty, because well, we don't know why, just because. So that's the reason Trump is sneering at them. He's falling asleep. His contempt for justice on show. There's no fucking justice here. What a bunch of. So then it moves to the evidence. Now they do concede that the evidence of the star witness was inconsistent, but what they don't do is say, well, why, if the evidence was inconsistent and was so flimsy, why was the case brought in the first place, given that this is Michael Cohen, given that Cohen was the star, this was it. All roads lead to Cohen and his testimony, and yet he went down, like a like a sack of shit in the courtroom, but that's not mentioned. It's the Trump's legal team, even Nazis that they are, and they may make they'll make sure he gets away with it, even though this Cohen is a wonderful, the best witness in the whole universe. No, he's not. He was a fucking hopeless witness. So no mention that Cohen was a convicted liar and all this sort of stuff. Nothing about that. Nothing about the inconsistencies of his evidence in terms of details. They did concede he wasn't as good as they hoped, but that was all. So they could have gone into some detail saying, well, in fact, he stole money from Trump and this sort of stuff. But instead, they phrased it as some questions over some money. They just ignored the details of this. Then they moved back to well, given that this witness didn't deliver the kill shot, as it were, then it's possible that Trump could get away with these terrible crimes he committed. Well, what crimes? Well, we don't really know, and who cares? We're talking ideology here, not facts. So they then manage, and they manage this in every article they do. They do about Trump. They managed to get the name Hitler inserted 3 times and Nazi twice. I mean, how do they do this? They do it every time. And so they managed to find someone on social media who says, well, Trump's just like Hitler. And then they do a screenshot of that and put it into their media piece. And then they talk about all the things that supposedly he's done, the far right, Hitler, Nazi, fascist. And they just insert all these things because they found someone on social media could say it. So if they were taken to task over it, and they have been from time to time, well, we didn't say it. It wasn't us. It was them. They said it. And we're only saying what they said, which is, of course, a sleazy, cheap workaround for how to do that. But they always manage to insert Hitler and Nazi in any article about Trump, always about Trump. And it's so pathetic and so cheap. And you'd think the standard of journalism, I mean, gee whiz, can't you just report what happened? Because they approach it from an ideological position that, well, he's guilty of, well, it doesn't matter what he's guilty of, and it doesn't matter if he did or didn't commit any crime. He's just ideologically guilty. And therefore, if we fit him up with some bullshit crime or other, that doesn't really matter because the ideological guilt is there anyway. And it's like the way they approach, everything on the left here, the slavery issue or this or that, or gay lesbian people have been oppressed for centuries, so we're only getting restorative justice. So they've got this insane view of what justice actually is. Justice is not facts, it's not evidence, it's not testing evidence, it's not proving, it's none of those things. It's purely ideological, which means it can be whatever you want it to be, which is how they managed to insert, Hitler and Nazi on every article about Trump, on the vaguest. Trump once said that they should reduce immigration from certain countries. And go, that's it, Nazi, and so they can jump to the Nazi take. Imagine just if you misgender somebody, you can go to prison and get fined, all that sort of stuff. What about if President Trump comes to office? What about if there's a new law that says that any negative connotation to anybody, white people or anybody straight white people. So if you call someone a Nazi, you'll go to prison. You call someone a fascist, you will go to prison unless you can prove it. And even then, you've committed an ideological crime, if not an actual crime. Just imagine how that would play out. It would certainly fuck up the globalist program. But anyway, came back to the trial. They're sort of very upset to note, very concerned to note that if the prosecution has to rely on the evidence, they're not going to get across the line. There's a sort of an undertone conceding of that, saying, so we have to hope that they just apply ideology to the decision and then lock him up anyway, and that'll be a wonderful thing for democracy and justice and something. It is insane that because this quality of journalism, by the way, they've got a gender studies activist and then the editor that and I had a look. The editor that is also an agenda studies activist. So there's a whole bunch of activists thinking, how can we write a piece that is as negative as possible about Donald Trump, and relies on the facts as little as possible, and then put that up as an actual media coverage, like an unbiased, and they call it an analysis. I mean, fuck. This is the standard of journalism in Australia's biggest media outlet. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.